What's up guys, Cliff with the Sunday Drive, and today we're going to be showing you how to do an oil change on this 2018 Hyundai Elantra. So welcome back to the channel guys. We are once again working on my wife's 2018 Hyundai Elantra, and today we are changing the oil and filter. So we're going to be using a Wix oil filter and Amsoil. Not a sponsored video, but this is what we like to use in our personal vehicles, and we are a dealer for Amsoil. So if you use our reference code down in the description, it does help us out. But again, not a sponsored video, we just happen to really like their products. First up, we're going to pop the hood. So to the left in the driver's side footwell is a hood release latch right here. You're going to pull that once. And right in the center of the hood on the driver's side is a hood release latch lever. So you're gonna reach your hand in and you feel some rubber. You're gonna push that towards the passenger side and lift up on the hood. And then right over here is the hood support. So it should be clipped in here. It has a little yellow top. You can lift that up and go into this hole in the hood right there. So here's your engine oil dipstick if you ever want to check the level of your oil, which we'll be doing at the end of this video, and our oil fill cap. Now before draining the oil, I always like to pop this open so that the oil doesn't come globbing and gushing out, but will come out in a more smooth flow. So we're just gonna set that there. And now we can put the car up in the air. So right here is our drain plug. It's a 17 millimeter. Now, as we mentioned earlier, this is the 2-liter 4-cylinder non-turboed engine. So your Hyundai drain plug might be in a slightly different spot. All right, broke that free. Now, oil is not good for your skin, so as we must say in our videos, you should wear gloves and protect your skin, because if you're doing this all the time, you don't want it on your skin. As you can see, this bolt has a crush washer on it, so that silver part right there, and this is actually crushed on there pretty good. It's a good idea to change the washer out, and if the bolt actually has an integrated washer, to change the bolt out every few oil changes, because this is what prevents, you have an oil leak at the bottom of your car and getting a spot on your driveway. So not a bad idea to change these out occasionally. So your oil filter is right here, up in this convenient hold in the splash shield, so you don't have to remove anything to get to it. And as we like to mention, your oil can be very hot if you've just driven the car recently, so make sure you let the car cool down sufficiently before you start draining oil. Now our oil catch can is big enough that we can actually get it underneath the oil drain as well as the filter, which is nice. They're pretty close together. We're using an 80 millimeter 15 flute oil filter wrench. Now note that this fits the Wix oil filter that we're using, the OEM filter that came with the car, or at least the oil filter that was on the car when I first did an oil change was smaller than this. So this might not be the exact fit for you, but it does fit the Wix oil filter. Make sure your filter wrench is all the way on and your catch can is underneath, because it's going to start dripping oil. All right, so I just loosened that. I'm going to let that drip a little bit before I fully remove it. So the drain has pretty much stopped. We have a very slow trickle at this point, so we're going to go ahead and put our drain bolt back in. And you want to be very careful, since these oil pans are very thin, that you do not over tighten this bolt. It's very easy to strip out the threads, and we will have the torque spec for this down in the description. Now if your filter wrench is stuck on there, just put your ratchet or breaker bar back onto it and just wiggle it back and forth until it breaks free. If you need to, you can stick it in a vise or just hit it on the ground even. There we go. Sometimes that will get pretty jammed on there. Conveniently, this oil filter actually shows the proper procedure for installing. So step 1, clean the area. Step 2, they want you to pre-fill the oil filter. This helps prevent any air pockets in your oil filter that first time initially starting the car. And then you're going to tighten it by hand until it makes contact with the surface at the bottom of the oil pan there. And then you are going to turn it 3/4 of a turn. Some people kill these. You do not want to do that. That can mess up the gasket and the seal and compromise the filter and make it really hard to get back off the next time you want to change your oil. Now, one thing you want to make sure of, regardless of which brand oil filter, that the gasket comes down with the oil filter. Sometimes the O-ring gasket will remain on the vehicle, and then when you go to put your new one on and don't realize that you now have 2 O-rings or 2 gaskets there, and that creates issues with the filter not sealing properly and the oil potentially not flowing in the correct paths. All right, now luckily this is a straight vertical install, we can pre-fill this with oil. Some cars, the filter is facing downwards or on the side and you can't pre-fill them, but in this case we can, since the filter goes straight up into the car. So usually I'll add a little bit and let that soak into the membranes. And then we can add a little more. I'm always shocked how much oil these little filters can actually take, because it seems like it's full and then it soaks down inside there. And then I also like to take a little bit of oil and just lubricate this O-ring as well. That prevents it from binding as you're tightening it up to the vehicle. All right, now you don't need to completely fill this. You just want to have most of the air out of here. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe the mating surface down, make sure it feels smooth, and make sure that there is no gasket still up there, and there is not. And this installs at about maybe a 20-degree angle, so again, you can't have it completely full or it will spill out since it's not completely straight up and down. All right, so we're gonna tighten this until it just touches. So, all right, so I just touched right there. Now we're gonna take our filter wrench and we're gonna turn it 3/4 of a turn. But actually, I can probably do this by hand. So if you want, you can take like a paint marker or something so that you know when you've turned. But there are numbers printed on the bottom of this, so I'm just gonna look at those numbers to know when I've turned 3/4 of a turn. So let's see, 180, 3/4. All right. So we're at 180 right there. I'm just gonna go a little bit further with the wrench. I can't quite get that last little bit, but I almost completely got it there. And that shows you how little force you should really be applying when you're installing your oil filter. You should not be tightening it down for all it's worth. And that is it. That's gonna make your life a lot easier the next time you go to change your oil as well. Now this is the 2-liter 4-cylinder non-turboed engine. I believe this model also came with a 1.4 and 1.6 turboed options. So this process may be a little bit different for you, but I will link the correct filter and oil capacities down in the description for your convenience. Now the 2-liter takes 5W20. There are a couple other weights you can use, but that's the recommended weight. And it takes 4.2 quarts. If you go with Amsoil like we are, 1 jug is 4 quarts, so you need to add a little bit more. Reinstall your oil fill cap, make sure it clicks, and then we're gonna check the oil level. And you wanna make sure, obviously, the car is sitting on level ground. All right, so wipe it down really good. And if you're ever having a hard time reading your oil level, you can spray this with a little bit of brake cleaner, and that completely cleans the oil residue off and makes it very easy to read the oil. All right, so I'm gonna put it down there and just leave it in for a second and then pull it straight out. All right. All right, so you want your oil level to be between these 2 lines. You notice all the little dots, and on the left side is the L for low and F for full. Usually this is a 1 quart difference between the low and the full mark. I'll double check that in the owner's manual and have that down in the description for you. But as you can see, the oil is right up to the full mark. Now I actually only added 4 quarts before checking. So it's always a good idea to add a little bit below the full amount, because not all of the oil drains out when you do an oil change. There's small passageways and stuff that some of the oil remains in, and you don't want to overfill your car. So I'm going to check this again in a few minutes, since I just filled it, so that all the oil can completely settle to the bottom. But if you're at the full mark, that's where you want to go. You don't want to be much past that. So that's it, guys. That's how you change the oil on your 2018 Hyundai Elantra. This is likely very similar to a lot of the Hyundai vehicles. And something else I like to do whenever I'm changing my oil is add a fuel injector cleaner. That's really important on these direct injection engines. It's very easy for those injectors to get clogged and for the vehicle not to run as efficiently as possible. Cheap insurance, doesn't hurt to really throw it in there and keep your fuel system running clean. We also have a video showing how to swap the battery on this car, and we will have more videos coming out on this vehicle in the near future. So make sure to stay tuned for those, and thanks so much for watching.